Hello, dear friends. What a blessing to be with you. Here we are again with another episode of the Spiritist magazine. I'm broadcasting to you from Richmond, Virginia, United States of America, from the Spirit Society of Richmond. My name is Sheyne Martin. It's always a blessing and an honor to be with you. And as you know, we are here every week talking about the Spiritist magazine. And today we chose an article that has to do with taking care of ourselves when we have diseases, when we feel ill, and or when we are recovering from illnesses. This article is from the magazine that you can see here next to me. It's issue 17, published back in April of 2012. There's also a beautiful component of these magazine issue that has to do with the behind the scenes of Mardi Gras and parties like Mardi Gras in the US and around the world. But we're going to focus on this article here, as you're seeing, when facing disease by the Spirit, Andrea Luiz, through the mediumship of Francisco Candido Xavier, in a book yet to be published in English, but available here in many of the issues of the Spiritist magazine, called Spiritist Conduct. In this book, Andrea Luiz will bring to us the Spiritist way of dealing with the different issues that affect and afflict all of us. Sometimes we are on the earth and we will get sick. Not sometimes, but most likely, most of us will at some point be sick. Be either by when we were young and we had the classic childhood diseases, and today we're healthy, or we will have a chronic illness, or we have an acute illnesses and be blessed with the ability of caring for ourselves with the physical medicine of the earth. You are in the physical body, therefore you need to apply the teachings we have today, that you are a spirit that has a perispiritual body that is connected to a physical body, and therefore whenever you're facing any difficulties, including diseases, we need to take a multimodal or multidisciplinary approach to resolving those issues. And that includes using science and medicine in order to help us live a better, healthier lives while incarnated on the earth. Previously, we have studied different articles, especially last week from Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, that show to us when we are ill, when we have physical infirmities, we have the spirit mentors and guides of all of us with us, guiding our own conduct and behavior towards those illnesses, but also we have them connecting to the spirit mentors and guides and the physical beings that care for us, the physical incarnated nurses, physicians, therapists, and all of those who allow the systems that we have to be in place. From the scientists on the bench discovering new things for us to use, all the translational process of research into the health that you and I can enjoy today. So we are blessed because everything that happens on the earth happens first in the spiritual realm and only actualize, materialize on the earth for you and I to use once the spirits allow it, the superior spirits allow it to be. So when we have a technology, we need to be very mindful and careful. And what happens, for example, if you were to get ill? If you were to get ill, first thing you do, if you're able to, you're going to get your tablet or your phone. This is the Spiritist Magazine app. For example, it will be hard to show because of the contracts, but this is the article we're going to read. But you can browse through the many issues, the many articles of the Spiritist magazine on your tablet. For example, if you were to visit spiritistmagazine.org, you can download the app For your phone and tablets, you can download the PDF version of the magazine. That's what you're seeing on your screen right now next to me. Or if you're listening on Kardec Radio, you can go there and see what I'm talking about. You can download it to your computer, to your phone. Then you can read it while you are recovering. But there is not only the physical part of receiving help, but also the spiritual help we can receive, and our emotional, psychological attitudes towards the fact that we're facing a disease. Eventually, the physical body will degrade and break down over time. Hopefully, we'll use all the allotted time that we have on this earth in order to do everything we needed to do in our reincarnatory plan. But at some point, our physical body is unable to sustain the physical life anymore, and then there is a disconnection between us and our spiritual body and spirit, and then we discarnate. So this can be also used when you and I are in that process as well. So Andrea Luiz will guide us step by step on what to do. And we're going to make it a little larger so we can read it together. We'll make it sure we can all read. Very easy. See, I downloaded it and now I'm using it to study with you. And my goal here is to show you that this is a very doable activity. No fuss. And if you wanted to study with your family members and friends, you can even do that while you are in the gospel at home, for example. One of you is ill, you can study this message, you can comment on it, you can do a prayer. As we're going to see, we have a lot of ways we can contribute to our own restoration of homeostasis and leaving the diseases behind while learning from them. So let's see what Andrea Luiz says. When facing disease, by Andrea Luiz, I quote, sustain unalterable faith and confidence without fear, complaints, or rebelliousness. Whenever known or unknown unexpected diseases visit your body or appear in your family, each trial has a reason. So everything that happens to you and I has a way and a reason why it's happening to us. Be either a trial, an expiation, a mission. We need to learn something from it. That's what he's saying here. Each trial has a reason. I'm not saying that it's not going to be challenging and at times difficult, but we have to sustain faith in God and God's resources through divine providence that allows you and I to be here today. Without fear, complaints, or rebelliousness. Who could not? I'm going to even make it larger. So how do we do this? Without fear, complaints or rebelliousness. How many of us get ill and are fearful of the outcome, complains that we are having a breakdown of our physical body, or get rebellious and say, God, why are you doing this to me? And we forget that each trial has a reason and we should remain faithful, because the unexpected diseases will reach us at some point. Do you know anybody who has ever gone from cradle to grave without experiencing at least one episode of illnesses, of a flu, a cold, and tummy ache, anything? So it's most likely that we will get there. We'll have a time where we will feel ill. So here we have the next part. He will say, with necessary discernment, refrain from excessive use of drugs that can intoxicate your organic life. In the service of healing, all medicine requires dosage. What is he talking about? He's talking about pharmaceutical agents. necessary discernment. The pharmaceutical agents we have can be a blessed agent of health, a restoring health for all of us, but we need to use discernment and refrain from excessive use of medications. You're not saying refrain from medications, say from excessive use of medications. He says, in the service of healing, all medicine requires the proper dosage. I'll share something with you. I'm a healthcare researcher. I work in a hospital with people who have surgeries, and I see it daily, the preparation and the care, then the physicians and nurses, especially the nurses, because they are the front line between you and the medication orders. The care that they take to customize treatment for each and every one of those patients who are in the hospital. And it, as part of the rights of medications, is the right person, the right time, the right medication, the right dose, the right route, for example. So all of that is present in the physical medicine on the earth. If we have pharmaceuticals, we would be blessed with their presence on the planet. It's all about dosage. It's about doing the right thing for the right person and not abusing them and not using them indiscriminately. Because sometimes, I'll say, for example, you are tired or you have a headache. Sometimes there are other things we can do, such as the passes at distance, or going to the Spiritist Center of service, or resting, or eating better, that could cure those conditions versus going straight to the pain reliever. So we need to talk about the service of healing, refrain from the excessive use of those agents. They are blessed when adequate, and they're blessed when they help us, especially in terms of trauma and acute care, if you will, were to be in those situations. Now it talks about our mental state. Dissolve ideas of fear in the face of contagious or disabling diseases, using mental disciplines and the resources of prayer. Hmm? Dear friends, didn't we go through a phase, and we still are in the pandemic phase of the pandemic of COVID-19, where we were very, very fearful, and a lot of folks are still very, very fearful because we didn't know it was a new agent, and we were working on restoring our balance. Yet there's still places on the earth where the disease is rampant and very contagious. So we need to do our part. And it's a dissolve ideas of fear. When you're fearful, you're in a different vibrational state than if you're happy or faithful or content. And then when you're fearful, remember that our thoughts emanate from our minds out into the universal cosmic fluid, traveling all throughout and mingling with like-minded um, minds and thoughts. So if my thoughts are of fear, my emotions are of fear, I'm always concerned and complaining, I will be connecting to those minds and will augment that ability. We want to be disciplined mentally to say, I don't know what's going on with me, but I trust in God, that God gave us the resources. I will use my discernment. I'll use the physical medicine with discernment as needed and the resources of prayer. And then now you go to the divine laws in the Spirit's book, the law of worship that explains the mechanisms of prayer. You can also go to the Gospel according to Spiritism. The last two chapters are all about prayers with examples of prayer, mechanisms of prayer. You're going to see when you pray and use the resource of prayer, you're communicating directly with God. And we can also attract to our side the good spirits that will help us to keep this mental discipline where we're refraining from being fearful, because fear is also contagious. Very easy to detect this. So if you are in a place in a time where you are feeling fearful, the people who come in contact with you, they may now become fearful because you are spreading that fear. You've been in a place where you're okay and you enter the room and everybody's complaining and nagging and disrupting, you leave that room feeling the same. So fear is contagious, and we need to work with that mental discipline so that we are not spreading that fear. But why? Because powerful forces of thought either create or extinguish many physical and psychological disorders. The power of your thought. Now we go to the book Thought and Life by Emmanuel and the book Mechanism of Mediumship by Andrea Luiz, or even in the book Evolution to Worlds, and he explains the power of thoughts can create ideas, mental images, can create physical and psychological disorders, because what we think becomes our life. Thought is life. So we need to think and use our mental discipline and prayer to think good thoughts, radiating goodness and contentment and happiness so that we can impart that into others. They're also shielding ourselves from the fear and mental indiscipline that is rampant nowadays. A lot of us go through our days just worried about the physical, about what we need to do. Is we are human doings, not human beings. We need to be mindful that each and every moment is so precious. Imagine the billions of spirits would love to have a physical body that would allow them to redress their past mistakes, allow them to return to the earth in order to give back to Mother Earth, who has sustained our life for so long and have suffered in our hands for so long with the abuses that we do in nature. So we need to be very mindful that we can create diseases or extinguish them based on the powerful forces of our thought. You are the co-creator with God. You have the power of doing that on your own life. He says, you're knowing that physical suffering is a spiritual trial within karmic laws. Never fear pain, but accept it and understand it without fear and with resignation. Spiritual trials. So there are things that you and I are here to collect, to redress, to pay forward through service and the power of love that we can spread to one another. He says, never fear pain. Now, dear friends, if you have ever been in pain, whatever pain that is, you know the pain is difficult. We're not saying go look for pain because no, that's not what we're saying. We're saying don't fear the pain, accept it and understand it. Cross-matching Spiritism, because Spiritism also, it will encompass the truth, the universal truths on the planet, cross-matching these teachings of Andrea Luiz with other spiritual teachings. They go read the book You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. She says in that book, in many of the other books that she has on audiobooks, you can listen to her as well in her meditations. She says, when you have a pain, let's say my hand is hurting, I don't complain, resent, be rebellious against my hand. I say, what are you, dear hand, who serves me so beautifully each and every day, is trying to tell me? What am I doing that is causing this pain? Or how can I see the blessing of having this hand? What is this pain teaching me? And then under meditation, you can meditate and reflect and see, what am I doing? How is my body telling me about my physical and emotional needs or the excesses that I'm incurring on? Let's say if my hand is hurting and I've spent each and every day 15 hours a day typing for work, maybe I need to modify and use ergonomics to adjust my desk, or take breaks, or use a brace, or looking for a physician. So there are different things that pain can teach us. So he says, you never fear pain. Hard things to do. And that's why we're repeating many teachings throughout our programs about being ill and have difficulties, so that we can learn. Repetition makes perfection. He says the intensity of pain varies according to the confidence in the divine law. When we pray, if you go to the Gospel according to Spiritism, you're going to say that not necessarily, I'm not preaching the gospel of prosperity here. I'm teaching you to be confident and faithful in the resource of God, The spirits will tell us that when we pray, God won't necessarily take away the pain and the difficulty. What God will do is give us the strength and the support to undergo those trials together with one another. God might send you a friend. God might inspire that physician or nurse to choose the right treatment and intervention so that you can be better. God will allow our guardian angels to get closer to us because now we are maybe open to listening to their counsels. Maybe when we have pain, we are unable, when we're facing a disease, as the title of this chapter, maybe now we have time to reflect and we're not out in the world incurring even greater debts. So diseases can be a blessing in and of itself. He says, you accept the help of the missionaries and workers on earth. There are missionaries, there are medical workers of all kinds on the earth. Those with degrees and licenses and those who care for us and they don't have anything. Our caregivers, for example. Places on the earth, there is no physicians, no surgeons, one for each 500,000 people. They don't have medicines, they don't have the equipment in the hospitals. So always accept the help when you have the help available to you. And we have to think about some place like Solar, where everybody receives medical care and medical help when they are rescued from the places where they come from, right? So we need to accept the help. And also do not exclusively demand protection and treatment from the discarnate physicians and nurses and therapists and aides. Remember, André Luiz in Solar, he started as a nurse's aide, cleaning the floor. And that job was as important as the physician who was dispensing the spiritual treatments. So we should not rely and think that we can just pray our way to not become ill. Don't rely exclusively on protection and treatment from the discarnate physicians. We add medical workers and missionaries on the physical realm working together with protection and treatment from the discarnate spirits. It's a combination, it's an addition. We add 1 plus 1 is like 1,000 when we are all together, working together. So we cannot rely and leave everything behind, because sometimes people become a spiritist and they think it's all about spirit. But the only way we can learn on this physical realm, one of the ways, the most effective ways to actually reincarnate, that's the test, that's the trial. And then we learn faster because we have to go through the vicissitudes of life, and people ignore the needs of the body, but it should be combined. Because if we don't accept the help of the physical medicine and we don't pray that the spirit workers can now come and inspire them to have the right treatment for us in the physical realm, it's combined. Now, if we don't take care of our physical body as we should, we might incur an indirect suicide. So what is the point of working only on the spiritual when I'm not caring for the physical, which is actually the blessed vessel developed from billions of years of evolution so that we can be here today? It says, external wisdom offered everything to our benefit. Mentally affirm to yourself that you're safe, above and beyond the insidious disease that threatens your body. So now you're making this mantra, this affirmation. You say, I am safe. I am more than the physical disease that is afflicting me. I have the strength to undergo this. Please, God, inspire these nurses to take care of me. Inspire my relatives to not go in despair. Inspire me so that I can keep the good feelings and thoughts. And he says, repel thoughts and words of despair or fatigue, keeping yourself in the stronghold of your faith. So today, the encouragement is for you to attempt to do those things. Does that mean we're going to steadily stay all the time repelling thoughts of despair and fatigue? Maybe not. But we can try. We should try and make these affirmations. Go Google Louise Hay's affirmations. Purchase her audiobooks and books and listen to it. And really feel yourself as a child of God blessed with a physical body. And then if you do this while you're healthy, then, because health is more than physical illness, the lack of physical illness, according to the World Health Organization, is a state of mental, physical, psychological well-being, right? It's a combinations, not just not having a disease. And then we can, when we are not ill, if we cultivate affirming ourselves, we are children of God, we are here to learn, we are here to serve. I am supported by God in divine providence. I am supported by the good spirits. When we become ill, when we face a disease, it will be easier to retain that, repel those thoughts of despair, fatigue, resentment, and rebelliousness. It says the persistent disease lead us to deeper cleansing. The spirit under Luiz will explain in the book Evolution into Worlds, in other books, of course, that when we did something, when we do something in this life, or we've done something in a previous life that leads to guilt or remorse, or we hurt or damage a part of our physical body in the past, for example, we can, if we stay on that vibrational pattern of guilt and remorse, we can create vibrational perispiritual knots in certain areas of our perispiritual body. Then, when we reincarnate, the perispiritual body conducts under the guidance of the spirit's mind the development of your physical body. That's on the Evolution into Worlds book. And then that area of a spiritual knot in your physical body can develop a condition where you're more predisposed to having a disease of that area of the body. For example, let's give an example to make it a little easier to explain. Let's say in a previous life we smoked. It's likely that we have smoked something, some sort of tobacco in a previous life. It's not unreasonable to think that. And then we damage the cells, physical cells of our lungs, and we damage the physical cells of our perispiritual body. And then we reincarnate, and now the perispiritual body, if its lesions or knots, can bring us to have a lung that is more predisposed to have certain diseases, COPD, asthma, a carcinoma, meaning a tumor or something like that. Then maybe, depending on how we act, we may not develop that disease if we bring ourselves to the powerful ways of love, caring, service, and not selfishness and pride, and also good habits, emotional, psychological, physical habits. We may or may not develop a disease. Yet, if we had this persistent disease of the lungs, we could be seeing that over time we have the deeper cleansing. We're redressing an action in the past, the karmic, remember the karmic laws? I damaged that area of my physical body in the past by choice of using a substance. Now I'm coming and having this deeper cleansing. And that also happens when we morally hurt someone or feel that guilt or remorse. And that's what Andrea Luiz shows in the book Evolution to Worlds, which you can watch here on Kardec Radio playlists. Those chapters are available for you to learn and listen to. As a podcast as well, so you can learn more about the mechanisms of that disease. So perhaps disease is a blessing. Like we said before, we may not be out there incurring more mistakes, and it's a cleansing, an ability for us to reestablish good vibratory patterns within our spiritual bodies and physical bodies, and then we can go through that trial and learn from it. He says, use the disease as a period of lessons, especially as time of application of the values of a religious belief. Whatever religious belief you have, you can apply those values when you are under facing illnesses or facing a disease. It's a period of learning, a period where you are evaluating how did I get here? What kind of habits led me to this? What kind of moral attitude? What kind of thoughts I'm harboring? What kind of service I'm providing to others? Because remember, when we serve others, put others before ourselves, we attract the sympathy of the spirits who like those people, the spiritual mentors of those folks, our own spirit mentors, and the spiritual aid missions can count on us to help the people of the earth. And then we can be surrounded with this atmosphere of goodwill, that can also act as a shield and a protection from fear, from despair, that could now allow us to be open to the development of diseases. Disease can be considered a thermometer of faith. So, how is your faith in God today? How is the faith in God that you are a child of God, born simple and ignorant, going through this experience of growth to become a superior spirit? God loves you since your inception all the way to today, the same way, giving us the blessed opportunity of being here today. Now, at the end of each chapter of the book Spiritist Conduct, Andrea Luiz will have a Bible quote. In this case, is Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Come unto me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That was said by our Master Jesus. And this is again from the book Spiritist Conduct by the Spirit, Andrea Luiz, through the mediumship of Francisco Candido Xavier. Blessed be both of them in the spiritual realm, wherever they are. We hope they can come inspire us and care for us while we are on this beautiful blue dot, the earthly ship where we all travelers. So when you travel and you're faced with a disease, I hope that you can remember this conversation. You can go back and download this article so that you can read it again many, many times until it can console your hearts and soul. Dear friends, it's always an honor and a pleasure to be with you. Remember, go look it up, spiritistmagazine.org. A beautiful collaboration, many collaborators all throughout the world. Under the guidance of the superior spirits, we are able to be here together bringing to you these teachings. We are 100% volunteer based, from the editors all the way to the writers and editors, writers, the graphic designers, and all of those who put this to translators. There's a lot of translated messages here that are not haven't been translated in published in English before. From myself, who I'm here, also a volunteer of Kardec Radio. Go there, check it out. We have a Facebook page. We have the app, the PDF. We also, if you are able to donate, because this is all done out of 100% volunteer based, to allow us to keep the apps and the resources flowing free of charge for all of us and for our benefit. Go conquer your faith. Go be a co-creator in God, with God in goodness. Go out there, take care of yourselves, take care of someone else. And until I can see you next week, dear friends, many, many blessings.